Well, g'day folks, Rod Moore here from Learn to Paint TV and Learn to Paint Academy. Welcome to another exciting episode of Learn to Paint TV. Now, I'm really looking forward to this episode because I had a viewer, somebody who's a member of the Learn to Paint Academy, Lisa. She emailed me the other week and she sent me through an old sketch of a castle in Scotland that she said that her family originated from. And so I went and did a bit of research on Google Maps and found Ruthven Castle. There's still parts of it there in Scotland, and I'm going to use this from Google Maps. I took a screenshot. We're going to use that as our basis, and who doesn't love painting castles, right? We don't do enough of it on Learn to Paint TV, so we're going to have a go of it here today. And of course, we're going to do it using the Moore method of painting. 3 steps, 3 basic colours for most of our painting, and just using 3 brushes, which will be an assortment of little flat brushes. So our very first step, I've got a 16 by 20 inch canvas. And I've got ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson. We're going to use that for our drawing. And our very first step is, of course, getting in a rough drawing. And we need to think about big shapes. So we're going to treat that castle as one big shape. We've got a horizon line that runs through there. We've got this road and this stone wall. And then we've got these trees around it and a few other bits and pieces. We'll get some of this blue and red. We'll mix up a dark. And try and keep my paint fairly thin for the drawing. Now I'm going to have the base of it sitting around about there, which means we're going to have, well, let's treat that as the dry stone wall. That dry stone wall is going to come to about there, and it's going to run out that way like so. Well, maybe not quite there, around about there. Okay, so that's the dry stone wall. And then there's going to be a little bit of that is going to run through there. And from there we can get our coordinates for our castle. So I've got this tower here. Okay, which runs around about there. That runs up there, that runs there. There's an original sort of part to it there. And then it sort of drops away a little bit. Whoop. Drops away a little bit in height there. Comes to about there. That runs down there. Got a wall there. And then from there we've got another little arch. And then part of that runs to there. And then that's going to run down there. And then let's just work around that. So I've got a tree that sort of sits in there. There's a row of trees back there. And then we've got this larger setting of trees there. And that runs into a bit of a lawn around about there. And then this road runs kind of like that. Okay. So it runs up to a point there. I'm not going to be a slave to the photo. We obviously want to have a representation of it, but I'm not going to, be laboriously trying to get it exact. Okay, but I'm going to put some trees around there. And the dry stone wall is going to run through. I won't run it all the way through. I'll leave it open so we've got a bit of grass in through there. Pop another tree there. Okay, let's get underway with step number 2 now. Now, step 2 in the Moore method of painting is, of course, to start to block in colour. Now, normally what we would do with most landscapes and so on is I'd usually, if you've seen the program before, you'll know, we start with our darkest darks and then we work backwards in value to find our lighter lights, and then we build up a value structure in our painting. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, right? Because I want to show you that you can be flexible in your approach to painting. There is no one absolute right way. What we'll do today is a top-down approach. So we'll start at the sky and we'll just work our way down through the layers and progressively come forward to the painting, just to show you that there are different ways to go about this. It needs to be light, it needs to be bluish, okay, but I'm going to put a fair bit of grey into it. We'll whack a bit of that red in there, we'll whack a bit of that yellow. Now see the combination here? Mostly blue and white, a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, and that'll help us get a bit of grey happening. Okay, and I'm not going to completely mix that paint in. What I'm going to do is just get a little bit random and abstract here today. And I'm also going to just for the fun of it, but obviously not with that one. I'm also going to just put a little bit of water onto it using my little misting bottle. Now in here I do have the medium to help this paint flow better. It's the Acrylic Interactive, and the paint is the unlocking formula. Okay, so that enables it to work back into this paint and rehydrate it. So I've got a little bit of that in the bottle here with some water. So the Acrylic Interactive, that's good for doing that. A lot of paints in the acrylic range aren't, especially the cheaper student brand paints, right? So you just have to be mindful of that. Okay. Now I'm going to just move this paint around, try and create sort of a stormy, about to rain kind of sky. And I want to get a bit of movement in there, a bit of life. Okay. But also at the same time, I'm just feeling like it wants to be a little bit abstract in nature as well. Fairly loose and random, but it will sit in the background because I'm going to put some darker darks and some warmer tones in the foreground here. So this will really just sit there in the background, and it won't be that noticeable. It's really noticeable now that I've got all this random sort of brush marks going on. It's quite noticeable right now. It won't be so noticeable once I get some other things happening in the painting, because at the moment you're just comparing it against white. But I want to create this effect of this sort of stormy cloud over here, and I've got a little bit of light happening over here with this yellow ochre. A little bit of sunlight. So this is going to be the light side's going to be over on this side of the painting. Okay, so we'll just introduce that light into the painting over here, a little bit of it creeping through, and okay, a little yellow ochre in there, and I'm going to need more white. So this row of trees around the castle, not our main sort of interest in the painting. It's a supporting role they're playing. So we're just going to, now this one all wants to be darker than the sky, obviously. So mix up this paint until we get it dark enough. Okay. Yeah, it's a supporting role, isn't it? It's not here to, we're not here to paint trees. We're painting a castle today. So let's just set these trees in as part of the setting rather than the subject itself. Plenty of other projects where you can paint trees. Okay, put those in, and then got these ones at the back here. Now keep in mind, I'm just blocking in here at the moment, aren't I? We're just getting a bit of colour down, and it's really what we're doing is painting the shadow side of these trees, and we'll put some highlight on them as we go. So we can almost take this same tone. I'll put a little bit more red and a bit of yellow into it. Okay, it's too much yellow, so I'll get a chunk more red and chunk more blue. Okay, there we go. And let's just run this in for our wall here. Notice I'm using a big brush. I've got lots of paint, so that paint flows off quite nicely because it's all still you know, there's a lot of paint there, so it's still wet. And if you've got a thin amount of paint, it won't come off as readily, and you won't be able to blend it as easily. Okay, I'll just run that to there. Do we need a little bit of, I'm going to open that up, maybe need a little bit more dry stone wool just around about there. And this really is going to be our darkest sort of dark in the painting, just the blue and the red again, but I've mixed it here rather than over here where there was white. Okay, so if I just bring that down here, across there. Okay, so you can see it's darker than the dry stone wall there. So this is the shadow side. Got the light source over here, which we've indicated that in the sky. So that was important that we put that indication into the sky so we had a feel of where our light was coming from. Okay, clipped into some light there, which I don't want. So let me just paint that out. Okay, we can fix that up. Now, so I don't want to paint that face or that face in that same dark because they're going to be getting a little bit more light. However, this face in here, this is why I moved to a slightly smaller brush. Just run that down there. So, good. And we'll just lighten that back a little bit, and we'll just run that into there, perhaps just under there. Good. Now, I'll take a little bit of that and I'll just run that into the bottom. That dry stone wall, just to get a bit of variety happening in there. Okay, looking good. So that brings us to the side that's going to be getting a little bit more light. What we'll do is we'll take some of this yellow and red. We'll mix that in with that dark. Okay, so it's a warmer tone here now. Okay, side there, a little touch more yellow and we'll come in here. Good. And I'll just take a pinhead of white into that, just a pinhead. Getting closer to the light source now. So I just wanted to lighten it off a little. Looks like I'm widening it, not to worry. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to paint in our underpaint for this field. Now, if you've been with me in previous episodes, you will know whenever I do a grassy field, and this is a fairly green, warm, grassy field, always like to underpaint it first with an orangey red tone, because the orangey red is, or red is a complement of green. Okay, so if you've done our colour mixing course, you'll know that. And it's just a great way to get a nice harmony in your green field. If you just paint it green, it goes all a bit flat and boring. However, if you underpaint it first, I'm just using a bit of spray here today because it's getting quite warm. If you underpaint this field first in a nice orangey tone, okay, or reddy orange tone, a little touch of white initially, just for out the back here, and I'll make that tone a bit stronger as we come forward. Now this is sort of, a lot of people when they see me do this for the first time, they're like, oh, I don't know about that. Just try it. If you don't like the result, go back to doing it the way you think it might work. However, I've found that putting the complement of the main colour underneath, just a great way to get that green later on to really buzz. Okay, so we'll just get that paint a bit stronger now. And don't fuss with this. This is just an underpainting, right? Get a bit of variety in there. Okay, the only time you want to fuss is just making sure you don't, or that you maintain the integrity of the top of this dry stone wall as much as we can. Okay, which is going to work nicely. Now, there's a little bit of a grassy field up in the back there as well. Okay, and then all this side of this path is going to be a grassy field there as well. I'm just reducing the size of that tree a little, just by eating into it. Okay, and I'll get rid of that overhang. So, and then that leaves our driveway here. Let's just take this red and we'll get a bit of white into that. Okay. Now I want to have that a little bit on the grey side. I'll add just a pinhead of blue and yellow in there. I don't want it to be a vibrant pink, obviously. There we go, that's graded back nicely with that bit of blue. So we'll just pop that in. Now again, I need to stress, this is the underpaint. This is not necessarily the finished product, although it could be, but it's unlikely at this stage. Okay, I've just got to be careful that I maintain the integrity of that line there. Paint up to it, and then once you've got a nice edge, just blur the two together. Okay, good. Notice the direction I'm painting my strokes are in. I'm going up and down, up the line of the driveway. Okay, I think we're going along nicely here. It's got a nice feel, it's got a bit of atmosphere, a bit of drama, and you know, we've just got our underpainting in, so if this is the first time you watched us, you might be a little bit unsure about where we're going from here. Don't worry about it. We'll all come together soon, right? So what we need to do is let this dry off completely. Now, if you're working with acrylic paint, best thing you can do is let it all dry completely. Once you've done your blocking, and then we'll come back in and we'll work over the top of it after it's had a chance to dry. So I'm going to leave that for about half an hour to an hour. We'll pop back then, we'll have another go, and we'll do our step 3 after that, which will be all the details and pulling it all together, finishing touches and so on. And this is going to turn out to be a terrific little painting. So, and as you can see, the sky is settling down nicely. There's a bit of drama, there's a bit of movement and atmosphere there, and we didn't even have to try and paint clouds to get that effect, right? So, you know, this is a really terrific way of painting for people who are just getting started or who like a looser feel, more impressionistic feel. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. I'll see you after the break. Okay, welcome back, folks. We're now going to do step 3 of the Moore method of painting, which are all about our details, our highlights, and our finishing touches. This is dried off and it's settled down quite nicely. Let's get underway. We'll take a little bit of that blue and red there. Okay, we'll get some white into that. So basically, you know, what I start out by doing is looking to mix up basically the same tone that we already had there. Now, of course, this is dried and acrylic's dried just that little bit darker. But if I can mix it up roughly to the same tone, I'm a little bit warmer there, but that's okay. Same value is really what I want, so you know, I'm reasonably close there. And then what I'll do is I'll just warm that up with yellow ochre to get a highlight colour, I'll add just a little bit of the blue back in. Okay, and I'll lighten it slightly. Now you've got to be careful it doesn't go a bit murky with acrylics. It can get a little bit muddy, the colour. If it does, that's because you have too many competing colours in there. So you just need to tone it back a bit. I'll just a little bit more yellow, okay. So now just pull a little bit of that paint out. You don't want too much paint on the brush there. And then let's just test. So this should give us a nice little sort of highlight tone on these trees, but we don't want it to be too dominant. Now, it is Scotland. That would be a good tone for it in Australia, sort of a eucalypt, but we need it a little bit more on the green side. So I'll add in some blue, like so. I'll get a little bit of this cadmium yellow light, and then we start getting it more towards the green tone. Okay. That cadmium yellow light will reduce the value a little bit as well. Okay. Now again, I've got too much paint happening there, so I'll just pull a little bit out. And then let's just try some of that. And that's probably a little bit better. It's a subtle shift, but it's a little bit greener in there now. I don't want it to be too bright though. If it's too bright, then what's going to happen is it'll come forward a bit too much. Okay. So I'll just start shaping up this tree. We'll leave plenty of the shadow in there. Okay, I'm just doing little half mushroomy sort of shapes because I've got the light coming from over here. So it's really only catching on that one side of the trees there. Okay, a little bit like that. And then we'll just continue that over on the other side here. Again, don't make this too bright. We don't want it to become too prominent in the painting. First of all, I'm going to start off with our yellow ochre here and some titanium white. Mix that around. A little hint of the alizarin crimson in there, like so. And what I want to do is, just on these faces where it's going to be catching sunlight, or catching light, maybe not direct sunlight, I'm just going to drag it down. But I'm going to leave plenty of that darker tone to come through because it's an old stone building and it will have dark crevices and cracks and things in it. And it's not going to be just one perfect tone right across. So I'll add a little bit more red into that, and I'll just break up that face there. Okay. Do the same on this one, but I'll go slightly dark with the yellow ochre. So I want that one to be the most vibrant light. Now this is important, this line here. We need to just establish a line down to that shadow area there. Okay. Okay, all the way down to that stone face wall. And this front one here, I'll add just a touch of blue into it. Careful it doesn't go too green. If it goes too green, add more yellow back into it. I'll add a little bit more white. Okay. And again, I'll just establish this line here. Okay. Now inside here, it's probably a little bit dark. So what I'll do is I'll take our yellow and our red. And we'll take some blue. Okay. Mix those up. Okay. It's a little bit warmer than what I've got here currently. And that's probably a better tone. So I've still got that stone colour, but it's just dark as it would be in shadow. But again, I've got that original dark in there, so I don't want to completely block this in now. I want to utilise some of that original shadow tone to come through, which it is. Okay, that's good. Do the same in here. This field, we need to be a little bit lighter in tone and value back here, and then get warmer and brighter right here. So what that means is we need to start off with our blue. I'll pop it down there, yellow ochre, and a little bit of the cadmium yellow, and a swipe of white. Okay, so we'll just mix those together, see what we end up with. Okay, probably get a little bit more of the yellows in there. And that's not too bad. Now I just need to be careful in this corner here. Just dragging the brush across. Let the tooth of the canvas do most of the work of the painting. Okay. And don't be afraid to let plenty of that red underpainting there come through as we go. Okay, so now I've got lots of paint in this brush. You can see it all build up there. I'm just going to utilize that. Just going to make a few marks. Okay, most of them are going to be either vertical marks or horizontal. I'm only making diagonal ones as I bring it down along that fence line. Okay, and the rest, think about how a field looks. Okay, get it to about there, and now I need to brighten that right up. Okay, so I'm going to get a big swipe of the cad yellow in there, and I'm going to work back over parts here, just so I get a nice variety of colours and temperature in there. I want it to be a little bit patchworky, so we have plenty of interest in there. But notice there is a lot of that underpainting coming through here. And when you stand back and look at this from a distance, this field is going to really come alive because of the interplay between our green and that underpainting that we've done, the red. So they're complementaries of each other. So even back on where I've got that little bluey, greyer green at the back there, I'll just pop a few little hints of this warmer tone. Okay, now down this corner, I'm going to just now add more blue back into it. Okay, I'm just going to put a bit of a dark patch in that corner, a little bit of the red and the blue in there. And just, why am I doing that? I don't want the eye to run out of the end of that picture, that's why. Get into our smaller little brush here now. You get some darks into this castle, just some blue and red. And we'll just run it into a few spots here, a little bit underneath the eaves there. Okay, there's a few windows and things, so we'll pop those in. Don't overpaint these though, you know, you see that my window's there, the paint's breaking up and it is not perfect. If you try and paint these things perfect, they don't quite look right for some reason. If you want to get that rustic old building effect, then a bit of broken up paint is, for the details, is ideal. Because the viewer's eye will make up details. If you over detail it though, it will just never quite seem right. Be a very tight, rigid painting. Try and find my smallest little flat brush here. Get a bit more of that blue and red. And I'm just going to too blue. Put in a few sort of a little bit of detail, sort of fretwork in there. And a little bit along in here too. Doesn't take much to give it a bit of a character and a bit of feel. It's an interpretation, obviously. So this again is the original photo. It's a gloomy sort of overcast day in Scotland, which we've tried to capture that feel with. You can see now the sky's settled right down. It's not dominating the eye because we've got this warmth here and this little bit of detail, and the eye runs up here to the castle. So the sky is not dominating, but it sets a mood, and the trees around it have sort of carried on that mood, a little bit overcast, a little bit glum. But then we've got a little bit of this warmth, sunlight bouncing off the field there, just to brighten it up and cheer it up. But you know, it's an interpretation. It's not a literal representation, but it's got a nice feel to it. It's nice and expressive. It's got a good energy to it, and it's a painting that anyone can have a go at. I mean, if you just follow the steps I've shown you, you can see the sky was painted very loosely, very roughly. These castle, I've taken the image, and what I've done is I've just turned it into a series of rectangles and triangles for you to make it easy for you, right? If I painted it literally the way it was, it'd be a little bit more complex, but I've broken it down into triangles, squares, and rectangles. Pretty easy, and I've changed it from the photo into three sort of little buildings there, okay, that all join together. Little outbuilding, little triangle, and rectangles, right? And you've seen how I've done everything else. It's an easy approach. It's something that anybody can have a go at, so make sure you have a go. And if you like castles like I do, this is a fun little project, so definitely have a go at it. So that's Ruthven Castle in Scotland. Thanks to Lisa, who sent in the photo and asked me to do this one. If you've got photos, then by all means send them to me. And if you've enjoyed this episode, check out all the episodes of Learn to Paint TV. at www.learntopaint.tv. And if you want a free course where I go into more detail about the Moore method of painting, the 3 steps, the 3 colors, 3 brushes, and so on, and I break it down into more detail for you, then drop by the Learn to Paint Academy. So it's learntopaint.academy. Underneath me here, I'll put the web address. Look for the spot there where it says free course, and register for that, and you'll be able to look into a little bit more detail about the Moore method of painting, which, so far 25,000 students around the world have gone through, most of them beginners or absolute beginners, and learn how to do great looking paintings like this. Hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have, and I'll see you next time on Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.